Joining me now, NBC Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale and NBC Homeland Security Julia Ainsley. Correspondent Julia Ainsley. Ali, first you, the committee has spent months trying to find links between the Trump inner circle and the individuals who planned the insurrection. So that makes this footage of Roger Stone pretty critical to the case that they're trying to make.
It makes it critical, and it's why our sources are telling us it's likely going to be among the new elements that we end up seeing from the committee tomorrow in a hearing that's supposed to be more sweeping in nature. And you're right in saying that it's probably the last of these hearings, or at least the last of the ones that are investigative in nature. We also know that there are likely going to be hearings around the final reports that they issue, potentially an interim report, but definitely around the final report, all of that set to come before the end of the year. But what these clips do is they further flesh out that this idea of stealing an election, just declaring that you'd won even if you don't know that you did, is something that had been percolating in the Trump orbit well before January 6th. But the committee also could go down the road after bringing us up in the timeline prior, during those July hearings, to the day of January 6th. They also could go further, trying to show why this threat to democracy is still very palpable, in that Trump himself is still out on the campaign trail, pushing the idea that an election that he lost was actually stolen from him, and trying to make it so that other election deniers across the country are more legitimate when they say that in standing closer to him. But again, each member is going to have a section of the hearing that they are in charge of, each of them having a role to play as they go into what my sources tell me is likely the last hearing that we see from this committee until before Election Day.
And I've been told by people involved with the committee that they're not going to finish. It's just no way. They've got so much material. They're not going to finish when this Congress expires. And presuming, the likelihood that, well, we don't know what's going to happen in the election, but there's certainly the strong possibility that Republicans take over and get rid of all of this. In fact, start investigating the Democrats. What's going to happen? Because we heard Dick Durbin, Senator Durbin of the Senate Judiciary, tell Chuck Todd a week and a half ago that they can't subpoena under their rules, that even if they keep control of the Senate, they need Republican buy-in to take over what this committee did.
Yeah, look, and that's why this committee is so determined to get their final report done by the end of the year. Each of the questions that I think are still lingering out there for them to answer, what happens, for example, with the 5 Republican congressmen who are going against and ignoring their subpoenas from the committee right now? What happens around Ginny Thomas? We know that they're expected to talk to her in the coming weeks. Other depositions that they would still like to do, decisions potentially around Trump and Pence. Are they going to call them? All of these lingering questions are ones that the committee is still actively grappling with. But at the end of the day, when it comes to, okay, when does the pen get put down? When do you actually start drawing conclusions? Chairman Thompson and others continue to tell me that the end of the year is the deadline that they are thinking about. We also know, though, from the perspective of what the committee is sharing with who, that they don't plan to share with the Department of Justice until at least after their work is done. That's something that Chairman Thompson, other members of the committee have been very clear about, the fact that their work is their own, despite the fact that there's clear overlap with DOJ and the investigations that they're doing.
And, Julie, let's talk about that and also your new exclusive reporting, great reporting on the Secret Service. The fact that the Secret Service did in July turn over their cell phones. 24 members of the Secret Service turned over their cell phones to the Inspector General, who himself has been under scrutiny for not doing things sooner.
Yeah, it's interesting the way this conversation has morphed, right? We know that at first we're talking about what is the Secret Service hiding? All of a sudden their text messages are missing. Then we find out that actually the conversation is morphing more into what's going on with this investigation. Joseph Ghaffari, a Trump appointee, is a DHS Inspector General, and we know that in late July, he alerted Congress that the text messages were missing, and he made the probe into this missing text messages criminal, although we still don't know under what statute he's investigating, what evidence he has of criminal activity. We understand that at that time, we're reporting now first here, that the Secret Service leadership took cell phones of 24 agents involved on January 6th and handed it over to the Inspector General. But what, if anything, has been able to come off of those cell phones, contacts, pictures, emails, text messages, anything? We don't know because, of course, they had that systems upgrade. But it really shows what a black box this investigation has become. And people I talked to inside DHS says that there's nothing that the Secret Service can do to do an own internal audit of what happened because the IG made that criminal. They took everything when they did it. They're not allowed to do their own internal review. So a lot more questions about where this investigation is going, and will we ever really know the communications shared between Secret Service agents that day?
Because they may be lost forever.
Maybe. And we also know from previous January 6th testimony, like Cassidy Hutchinson, why it's so important to understand what they were saying that day.
What were they saying to Mike Pence, for instance?
Yeah, like to know.
And Ali, before I let you go, any update at all on the stalemate over the legislation that's now in Joe Manchin's hands, which is holding up, keeping the government open, right? Because there has to be agreement on all of that.
Yeah, exactly right. Republicans have long said that they want to vote for a continuing resolution to fund the government that's as clean as possible, which is, in their words, which is their way of saying they want to do it with as few things attached to it. But the problem is Chuck Schumer and Joe Manchin, in making that agreement on that large climate and infrastructure bill earlier this summer, they made an agreement to put permitting reform as part of this continuing resolution. Now is an interesting trading of the tables, where Joe Manchin actually needs to try to keep some of his Democratic colleagues on board with this, while he also tries to get Republicans on board to the number of 60 that he would need in order to keep permitting as part of this package. They come back tonight. We're going to see them do the first procedural step getting onto this bill, and that's where we're going to see if permitting is able to stay in or if they're going to have to strip it out in order to fund the government. But the Senate coming back tonight, and we'll see the first part of that later, Andrea.
And we heard that Tim Kaine is a no, and
Exactly.
Bernie Sanders is a no. So he's lost 2 Democrats already.
Yeah, even as they try to cobble and keep Republicans on board as well.